Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Spotlight Show. I'm your host, Jabez Napoleon Ogbole is my name. Every week, I'm always excited, to join you live and to bring about, several topics of discussion and for us to empower ourselves. So I want to say thank you once again. We are broadcasting live right now from the city of Toronto from the GBKM network. So we are live on our GBKM app, which you can download from the App Store, Play Store. We are live on our website, www.gbkm.fm. We are live on YouTube, GBKM TV, and of course, Facebook. GBKM FN. Thank you so much. Please like, subscribe, tell your friends and family about this program and how it's been beneficial to you. Today is very, very interesting because I really like the topic for discussion today. But before we go into the topic of discussion, a quick shout out to all of our sponsors. I want to give thanks to African Young Entrepreneurs, www.ayeonline.org. Thanks to Imani's Place, www.imanisplace.org. Of course, thanks to Pan African Art, Culture and Trade Institute, www.pakati.org. Daniola Corporation as well, thanks. And of course, Top Run Consulting. Top Run Consultants are the leaders in IT training and certification. Special shout out to them for making this show possible every month. And of course, reach out to them, www.toprun.ca. All right, guys, what is today's topic? Today's topic is very interesting, something that is very dear to my heart. It is, what is women's empowerment? Everybody hear this word, women empowerment, women empower. What is that all about? And today we're going to be having this discussion with someone who is very passionate about your success, my success. This person is passionate about providing a safe space for women to discuss issues affecting them, and of course, looking for viable solution. And today in the show with me is Carla Zhu. And Carla Zhu, hello, Carla. Awesome. Hi, Carla. How are you doing today?
Hi, Jay. Thank you for having me. How
Yeah.
are you?
Now I'm doing great. It's a pleasure having you on my show today. I'm very, very excited. As you can see from my face and my smile, I'm all smiles today, Carla.
Thank you.
Awesome. So for our viewers right now, maybe watching us live or the recording, Carla is a Bermudian journalist. She's lived in Manchester in UK, for a few years, and she spent the last 20 years making impact in both print and electronic media. But Carla, you are better being able to actually introduce yourself to our audience. Carla, please, why don't you introduce yourself? Who are you and what do you do?
Well, as you know, my name is Carla. I am from Bermuda, but I have lived in
I can
Manchester
see.
in the United Kingdom for
All right.
the last 4 and almost a half years. I am a journalist. I've been working in all aspects of media since 1998. I wanted to be a radio and television producer. And I went to Bermuda after university, and they said, no, you can't shoot camera. That's a man's job. So instead, we're going to put you in front of the camera.
Mm-hmm.
And I was on air. And then from there, I just did different aspects of communication. I'm a mom. I have 3 children. I have a 20-year-old daughter, Sakile, and I have a 15-year-old son, Ajani, and an 11-year-old son, Naeem. So I take the mom title very seriously as well. Um, I'm the editor of shehub.tv, which is my website dedicated to all women, and then
Okay.
the magazine, which is a quarterly, but it's dedicated to Blacks and ethnic minorities.
Wow, that's very impressive. That's very impressive, I must say. Because when I looked you up and I was like, wow, she's so versatile. She's into a couple of things. She's an entrepreneur. She's a journalist. And on top of that, you also have a master's degree in public relations. Actually, you're a member of the Public Relations Association in UK. Is that so?
Yeah, I'm a
No.
member of the Chartered Institute of Public Relations. I about 3 years ago, I wanted a career shift because years before, when I was in Bermuda, I spent about 7 years working in public relations for the government,
Okay.
and I was really good at it, but I didn't have the official qualification as such. And so I said, when I moved over here to the UK, I would shift gears. So I actually thought I didn't want to write anymore, and I applied for law school. And I got in, and I wanted to go in so that I can specialize in family law.
Okay.
And then I said, I'll defer for a year. And then a year came again, and I said, I think I want to do a master's instead, right? So
Okay.
I did a master's in PR, and then it was going well, and then the pandemic hit.
Mm.
So I had to complete it during the pandemic. I officially finished just December of 2020, and we're still waiting to have our official graduation because of the pandemic. But I wanted to do that degree so that I can be strong on both sides, no matter what side of media I was on.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I actually do a lot of copywriting as well as
Okay.
a freelancer. So it's working.
Wow, it seems your hands are so full because one of the purpose of this show is to empower, our own brothers and sisters, people of color all across the globe. And you being a mother, you being a journalist, you took an initiative to actually go back to school. Tell me, for someone who is watching right now, who's got similar, who find themselves in a similar situation with kids, with business, with a 9 to 5, what's your advice to them? How are you able to manage all these several tasks and be successful?
Well, first, I don't do a 9 to 5, right? And that's why I keep picking a path that works for me because I am a single mother and it's important for me to support my children in whichever way I can. And if I do a 9 to 5, I can't always do that. My two sons are signed academy players, and most times training is at 5:30. So I can't say to a job every day, "Can I leave at 4 in order to be somewhere at 5:30?" So for me, it was, I say, always believe in yourself. Don't think that there's nothing you can't do, but most of all, follow your passion.
Mm.
Oftentimes, we think that we have to go the route that everyone else has taken because maybe it makes more money or it's more popular. But when it's your passion, it doesn't feel like work.
Okay.
And I think that that's so important. So I have to juggle the balls because if I don't, who will? But it's also integrating the self care part of it. And it took me a long time to realize that you have to also know when to stop and take a break because if not, you break down.
Yeah, that's very true. Thank you so much for that information. That's quite inspiring. Let me ask you this, because first of all, I like the fact that you're an entrepreneur. You have a career, you built up a very solid business. You have wonderful kids who are in the academy, and right now, people might say, you know what? 9 to 5 is something I can easily do. Going into business, I don't really know because I know a lot of females, people of color, people of African descent all across the globe. People get gravitated towards 9 to 5, But I'm of the opinion that generational wealth is very important. So you have to build your business because we have so many skills. We have so many people have so many products and services that they can monetize. So for those people watching right now, and they're asking themselves, I'm a bit scared. How can I do this? But Carla, it seems that you've been able to accomplish this. What's your advice to them?
Be true. I mean, first of all, a 9 to 5 is nothing wrong with a 9 to 5. It just
Okay.
I decided in 2012 that it just wasn't for me, and this was long before. I've always been a parent, so I've been a parent for 20 years, and so it wasn't about the football or anything like that. It was just that I wanted to take my talents and utilize them in a way that I knew could work for me. But for some people,
No,
a
no.
9 to 5 is for them. So I would never knock it.
Yeah.
It's just, I think you have to be true to yourself.
Mm.
Now, Shehab ties right into my theme of the fearless female.
Okay.
And I just feel that you won't know what you're capable of unless you try.
That's true.
Even if you make a mistake. I mean, I had a news site before, Today in Bermuda, and it had gotten hacked, and I was just having all these problems with it. And I decided, you know what, I'm gonna give it up. And at first, I was kind of embarrassed
Mm-hmm.
because I was like, it failed. But I just said it wasn't making me happy anymore. So the hacking was almost a blessing.
Okay.
And then I took like a year off from writing, and that's how She Hub was born. And I was like, well, who are you? And I was like, you're a fearless female. Because when I moved over here to the UK, I hadn't seen Manchester before.
Okay.
And I came over here with 9 suitcases, two of my three children, a cousin that came with me for 2 weeks, and house unrented in Bermuda, car unsold,
Mm.
and I left. So I just had walked in faith and knew that when I landed, and I could remember that morning like it was yesterday, I just felt relief. So
Mm-hmm.
if you just believe in whatever you believe in, anything's possible.
Well, that's true. I like that. Well said. You know, whatever you believe in, anything is possible. Let me write that down. Eh? Thank you so much. You know, let's talk about Bermuda. I understand that you have a morning talk show. You're like a co-host.
Yes, I actually, it's interesting that you asked that because a year ago we did formulate a talk show, and it is currently Bermuda's number one talk show. And considering I was here in the UK and my co-host was in Florida, but I just finished that contract.
Okay.
I decided not to renew it because I also wanted to really dig in and focus on my projects. And sometimes when you focus on other people's projects that don't belong to you as such,
Okay.
you take away from your own. So
Mm-hmm.
I literally just finished on May 10th.
Okay.
So now I'm excited because it's opened up new opportunities for me here in Manchester.
Mm-hmm.
So stay tuned for that one. I won't tell it what it is, but I'll be back on the air soon.
No, that's amazing. You know, in the studio here at GBK, my producer always says something. He said, if you don't build your own dream, you will help someone else build their own dream. So that I can relate to that. Let me, because you're a journalist, you're a public relations specialist. Let me ask you why you were working as a talk show host and why you're still in journalism. Are there, because our topic today is you know, women's empowerment. As a female, are there things you can get away with because you're a female?
I don't think so. I think
Okay.
as a female, you have to work harder
Mm-hmm.
because most times we're in a male dominated society, right?
Yeah.
But I've always had a voice. I actually am lying. When I was a teenager, up until about 17, I didn't use my voice.
Okay.
And then in about 21, I discovered speaking up makes a difference. So anyone who knows me will tell you, oh, she's unafraid. I speak up for anyone. I
Nice.
I love the underdog. So if I see someone being mistreated, it's probably me that's gonna say, hey, don't do that.
Mm.
So, you know, um, as a female, and you have the little things how people may refer to you, so they may say, oh, that little show.
Mm.
I find that some people can be condescending like that,
Mm.
but I just don't let it stop me. I just keep
Yes.
pushing. I don't do the victim mindset.
Okay.
And again, I go back to being a single mom of three, and I tell my children all the time, don't let anyone make you feel that because you come from a single parent home that you're lesser than.
Mm-hmm.
So I carry that with me in everything that I do. Being a female just means just that to me. It doesn't mean that I'm a lesser citizen than anyone else, even if they may think that about a female. I
Mm.
don't even take it on.
Well, I like that. Well said. Well said. No, thank you so much, Carla. This is very great. We're going to go on a quick break, guys. I know today's topic is what is women's empowerment, and that's why we have Carla here. Trust me, she's a subject matter expert in this particular topic. But I want everyone to have a feel of our special guest today. Hence, why we have to ask all those questions. But stay tuned. We're going to go on a quick break. Okay, guys, we're going to be right back. And when we come back, we're going to go straight into what is women's empowerment, and that way, Carla can actually, take us on a journey and inform and educate us. So sit back, relax, and we'll be right back.
My name is Carol, and I'm currently a project coordinator. I took the project management course. I learned a number of things, one of which was interview skills. I learned about the Agile framework and how that's very different from the waterfall model of project management.
At Top Run Consulting, the key unique area that we try to focus on is not to just impart certification knowledge, but the application of real-world tools.
Back in June 2017, I did the business analysis course at Top Run. I learned the basic and advanced skills and tools to be successful in business analysis field.
All right, welcome back, everyone. We're still on the Spotlight Show. We're coming live to you from GBKM Studio in the city of Toronto in Canada. And also, we're live right now on YouTube, on Facebook, and of course, GBKM app. So please be sure to download it. Yes, guys, welcome back. I'm still your host, Jegbez Napoleon Ogbole, and we have a special guest still with us, Carla Zhu. And we're back from the break right now, and let's go straight to today's topic, Carla, because I'm very, very excited. I really want to be educated today. In your own opinion, what is women's empowerment?
For me, women's empowerment is about being able to be your authentic self, even when you're broken, even when you're in pain, even when you're trying to bounce back, even when you're accomplishing. Um, and actually, that's where the Women's Empowerment Summit Bermuda came from, because I was in a stage of my life where I was broken. And as a mom, as a businesswoman, as a friend, everyone said, "Are you okay?" And you smile and say yes, and your whole world is falling apart. And so I was like, you know what? I want women to understand that they aren't alone. And that's how I ended up having the summit. I want women to understand that everyday women, whether they look like you or not, they have issues that they deal with just like you. And if you are open about it, we can find solutions. And that's what I believe in. I just think sometimes we have to put on that mask, and our lives are just horrible, but we have to say it's okay because women just keep going. And for me, women's empowerment is about being human, but most of all, healing so that you can be the better version of yourself.
Wow, wow, that's amazing. I never understood it that way, but now you've really, really opened up my mind to see it in a very different perspective. Because I always see women's empowerment as if you're trying to help the female. But honestly speaking, you can't really. I mean, we were born by females. You know, a lot of us have sisters, and we have spouses or wives, and they've been very, very instrumental to our upbringing. You know, in some of our key decisions. Then when it comes to business or boardroom, etc., we see less female. And when I hear the word female empowerment, women's empowerment, I'm always thinking, oh, is it equality with men? Yeah, we talk about feminism and all that, but you just made me understand, no, that is not the purpose of women empowerment. But you do something very okay. Go on.
Sorry, in my context, I mean, it could mean different things for different people, but for me and the movement that I have, it's all about the healing part of it so that we can be as best as we can be.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Now, why don't we talk about some of the initiative, you know, some of the wonderful job you've been doing, you know, across the world, you know, for women. You actually have the Women's Empowerment Summit. What is that all about, Carla?
So in 2016, initially it was just a way for me to make some money because I was like, okay, what are you good at? And through the years, women have reached out to me. Women tend to share their stories with me and they look for solutions. And I was like, okay, if I get some women together, make some money, go towards my moving over to the UK. Had this beautiful event, well attended, powerful, and made not one penny. And so I was like, okay, try that. I'm not going to do it again. And then about 6 months later, someone reached out to me and said, "Are you having it again in 2017?" And I was like, "No, I'm in the UK. Why would I do that?" And they were like, "Do you not understand the impact you had on us?" And hence that movement began. So this year marks the 6th year. Now, with the pandemic, I was going to cancel it. I was disappointed. It was my 5-year anniversary, and I fly to Bermuda every year for it. And I was like, I'm not going to have it. And someone said, please have it online. And here's the thing. I said, okay, just 75 tickets. They sold out. 100 tickets sold out. I ended up selling 129 tickets.
Wow.
And I had a mega conference with 8 presenters, and we held space for 9 hours.
Wow.
And the women stayed from when it began at 10 a.m. in Bermuda, right on through until 9 hours later. And I was so surprised because I was just like, wow. And I thought because it was virtual, it would take away. But it turned out that being virtual made it a safer space because they said when they were going through things, they could turn their cameras off, have their moment, and then come back in. So this year marks the 6th year, and hopefully COVID will make it so that I can have it in person. And I'm going to have a whole women's empowerment weekend. So a reception on the Friday, the conference on the Saturday, and then a power breakfast with a speaker on the Sunday. Wow. So it's growing. It's growing. I'm excited.
It is. It's a very laudable initiative, and I do commend you for that. For anyone watching right now, or seeing this recording, what if they do not attend the Women's Empowerment Summit? What are they missing? What are some of those things that you look forward to?
They are missing being in the presence of dozens of non-judgmental women. On average, we have about 80 to 100 women who attend in person each year. It's a non-judgmental space. We have broken women. We have hurt women. We have women who want to share their stories. And then we have women who offer solutions to others. And people, every year, people say, oh my gosh, I was skeptical. I didn't want to share. Or, I sat there and I ran in the bathroom to cry. And they're like, thank you for creating this safe space. But what I've done, initially it started out as one-way communication. So we'd have presenters,
Okay.
and then they take notes, and the women were saying, well, we need more. So I would have workshops as well, so
Okay.
giving women tools as opposed to just giving them information. So
Oh.
that's what the Women's Empowerment Summit does. And then out of that, this year, for the first time, I've held master classes. So we have
Okay.
Women's Empowerment Summit master classes,
Okay.
and we've talked about generational trauma. We've talked about sexual abuse, how to not be a toxic female. We've talked about finances. Next month, we wrap it up, and we're going to talk about sex. So there's a range of topics. It's never one, I'm never 2 days alike, or even 2 years alike. So if you attend the summit, and I may do hybrid where it's in person and virtual,
Yeah.
then anyone from around the world. So last year's we had people from 4 different countries. It was the States,
Okay.
Bahamas, Bermuda, and UK. So hopefully we can have some from Africa as well.
Okay. Wow, this is awesome. Honestly speaking, because many people say that COVID is a curse, and few people say COVID is a blessing, because I've noticed that COVID have brought about an opportunity for us to actually reevaluate our lives and take advantage of several things. Because during COVID, it was I don't know about in UK or in Bermuda, but in Canada, we noticed that domestic violence, like you mentioned, and several other issues, mental health really affected the female as well, even more than the male, because they have, there's so much pressure on the woman, especially when you have kids and career and business, etc. So I must commend you that you must continue, to hold those virtual summits. So now let's talk about it. So who benefits from this in terms of locality? Who benefits most from this summit? Is it Bermudians, or is this every woman across the globe?
Primarily, the majority, I would say 60% are in Bermuda,
Okay.
and then 20% are in the UK, and then the rest are between the Caribbean and Canada. And what we found is that, I even have women, I have a closed group, no men allowed, and there are 1,000 women in that space, and they're from all over the world.
Wow.
So they pop in. Sometimes people, and the blessing in virtual is that people can watch. They don't necessarily have to participate, but they'll always message me and say, hey, that really resonated with me. So I want to build a global brand. I want to have a Women's Empowerment Summit here in Manchester, and then continue to grow it. I would love to actually, one day, my vision is, once my youngest son is a bit older, is to become a public speaker as well, because I have a very powerful journey that I like to share, and I think I could resonate with women across the globe.
Wow. No, that's amazing. Now that you talk about, taking it global and having an event perhaps in the UK, so I'm going to ask you this, for anyone watching right now, because, when it comes to, children's issue, women's issue, in most nations we have presidents, and those presidents who are married have a wife. And the first lady are very, very passionate about, advancing the women, in anything about women or kids. So anybody watching right now, they hear the word, oh, I want to take this summit global. What would be your advice to them? Because you're talking about expanding globally, but starting with UK first. What about Africa? What about the Middle East? Tell me, what are your plans?
I would love to grow in Africa. It's actually one of my passions. And this is the power of networking. This is why I chose to be honored as a guest on your show, because I'm hoping that there's someone watching who I could network with. Because again, I think that stories that women have, regardless of what their background is, there's a commonality. It's just a matter of reaching them. So I think it's important. You just never know who knows who. Someone may see this and they could be someone who I could partner with and have something in Africa, or someone see it in Canada. So I just keep using it as opportunities to hopefully I touched someone's life in this short period of time.
Wow, no, that's really nice. Thank you so much, Carla. Because the show is 30 minutes long and we're about to come to the close of the show. But Carla, let's talk about your entrepreneurship spirit. You're an entrepreneur. In short, you're a serial entrepreneur because you have your print media and online. You have the SheHub TV and the SheHub magazine. Tell us more about that. How did you get started with those?
So when I quit the other website,
Okay.
I was in a friend of mine's house in Bermuda, and my business manager at the time said, "What do you want to do?" And I was like, "I want to touch women's lives formally, right?" And so that's how SheHub was born. So we had the website, which was dedicated to women, regardless of what they look like. And then when I did the magazine, which the first one launched in March, I decided to dedicate it to Black and ethnic minorities because I feel that it's so important for us to be featured in media.
Okay.
And there aren't many print publications in the UK. So even with that, like, I'm still trying to find a distributor. I've literally been putting them in envelopes and mailing them. There is
Wow.
a SheHub TV app in the App Store and Google Play, and it's digital. So I'm covering all the bases so that no one cannot have a copy of this magazine. And I'm just gonna day by day just keep growing them, both of the brands.
Wow, no, that's great. That's great. That's really nice because I want my viewers to actually go there and check out SheHub TV, and of course, try and see can we have access to the digital print of the SheHub magazine, or there's digital copies?
Yeah, it's available in the App Store,
Okay.
and it's going to be in Google Play in the next couple of days. And then there's also a digital version as well. So it's available. There's no reason why anyone can't purchase it. It's available on every medium.
Awesome. No, it's very wonderful talking to you, because I don't want people to feel that, oh, it's so easy to do what you do, because I know there are a couple of hurdles and challenges you may have come across. So for every young girl, young boy, any individual, women, anyone, regardless of age or location watching right now, what would be your advice to them whenever they try to go into entrepreneurship or into journalism or whatnot and they face challenges? What are your words of encouragement? Because you've been through that road before.
It's not easy. It's scary. You're not going to be rich, but it's worth it. If you know that you can do it, don't even worry about people that say you can't. Just keep pushing one day at a time and use every opportunity that you can to learn something new from somebody else. Don't be afraid to try.
Awesome. I like that. Do not be afraid to try. Very, very important. Thank you so much, Carla. We've come to the end of this interview, but before you go, we really like to have you in the nearest future, because what is coming up from your mouth is so amazing. Yeah, it's so impactful. Okay. But before you go, someone is out there. Okay, I want to get hold of Carla. Be it for any of these endeavors or summit or anything. How can they get hold of you?
I'm really easy to find. I'm on all social media platforms as Carla Zuill, Zuill. And if you go on www.shehub.tv, you can hit the contact form, or you can email me at carla@shehub.tv.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it from Carla, so you can reach out through any of those medias. And of course, Carla, thank you so much for, spending time with us on this Sunday afternoon. I know it's nighttime in UK, so thank you so much. And like I said, in the nearest future, we'd love to have you back. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right, you're welcome. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of the show, and I'm very, very happy, to have brought in that subject matter expert, Carla, who is actually someone with, various skill set in journalism, and someone who knows what she's doing in terms of, impacting women across the globe with that summit. And of course, like I always say, every show, you must network with like minds. Okay, wherever you find peace is your home. If you're in Africa, if you're in Middle East, in the Asia, in North America, in Europe, why not be part of the community growth, participate in local politics, community development, whatever it may be, religious society, etc. All right, guys, so please, whatever skills you've been blessed with, whatever services you render, whatever it is, you can monetize it and turn it into a business, guys. And this is why we have this show. We go out there, do the heavy lifting, and bring those information to you so you can make informed decisions. So, start thinking of building that business, be it a career, why not? Top Rock Consulting is the place to go in terms of career. If you're looking for a career in IT, information technology, is very, very important. www.toprun.ca. And of course, like I said, your what is determined by your network, of course. So guys, that network we like minds. And of course, reach out to me, spotlight@jbkm.fm, and I'll be very, very happy to answer your question. If you want to be a guest on this show, why not send us an email as well? So I'm going to leave you with this, guys. Try and be good, keep safe during this COVID period. And of course, you're always in the spotlight. The change you seek begins with you. Good night.
My name is Caro, and I'm currently a project coordinator. I took the project management course. I learned a number of things, one of which was interview skills. I learned about the Agile framework and how that's very different from the waterfall model of project management.
At Top Run Consulting, the key unique area that we try to focus on is not to just impart certification knowledge, but the application of real-world tools.
Back in June 2017, I did the business analysis course at Top Run. I learned the basic and advanced skills and tools to be successful in business analysis field.
My name is Jabez Napoleon Ogboli, and I'm running for the position of the Public Relations Officer in the Nigerian Canadian Association, Greater Toronto area. I'm using this opportunity to solicit for your support and your vote. As the Public Relations Officer in NCA GTA, I'll be able to work with all media outlets so that our voices and issues affecting the Nigerian community can be discussed. I will work with every community, every language, every race, every religion to unite us and make sure we have access to accurate information. I will reach out to all associations and community leaders within the Nigerian community and outside to ensure that in Canada we have a united voice and representation in municipal government, in provincial government, and of course the federal government. With your vote, together we can make NCA GTA an organization that when you think of Canada, you think of NCA GTA.
Welcome to 360 Wellness. I'm your host, Andrea Barrett. In Canada, this week is Mental Health Week. We spend a lot of time talking about our physical health and our financial health, but we don't spend nearly enough time talking and caring for our mental health. The pandemic has created unprecedented levels of stress and anxiety. How are you? No, really, how are you? No doubt we're all stressed, we're having a tough time, we're anxious, we're confused, we're sad, we're mad. There's too much going on. Our kids are frustrated, they're at home with online school. Parents are having a tough time helping their kids with online school and working from home. We're all wearing multiple hats. We're not getting enough sleep. We're not eating well. We're having a tough time. And it's okay to say that we're having a tough time. The pandemic is hard. It's really hard. And it's okay to say that it's hard. And it's okay to ask for help. This is the 70th annual Mental Health Week, and I am in support of the great work that the Canadian Mental Health Association is doing to bring light, to get rid of the stigma, and to offer support when it comes to mental health. They've launched a campaign called #GetReal. It's about how you feel. Add a name to it, don't numb it. #GetReal. Let us know how you feel. Joining us today is Stephanie Brown, an educator with the Peel District School Board.
Hi, everyone.
Mental health, this is a very important conversation. It's important to talk about the stigma that surrounds mental health. It's important to shift societal beliefs and attitudes around mental health. It's important to promote positive behaviors and attitudes about what we can do for our own mental health, our loved ones, and the kids in our family. It's important to also recognize that good mental health doesn't always mean that you're happy. Good mental health is on the continuum. It's okay not to feel great and happy all the time. That is actually healthy. A recent survey by the Canadian Mental Health Association found that 77% of adults felt stressed and anxious because and not really motivated during the pandemic. 77%. Are you one of the 77? Had we done the same study on kids and students, I wonder what that number would be. Joining us today is Stephanie Brown. She is an educator and she is frontline and working with the youth. Stephanie is with the Peel District School Board. Hi Stephanie, thanks for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So let's start. How are you feeling? How are you feeling on a scale of 1 to 10? How are you doing?
On a scale of 1 to 10, I would say an 8.
Okay,
An
8. So
Yeah.
tell us, mental health in the schools, what are you seeing? And tell us about yourself.
Well, I work with the Peel District School Board, as you said. I work for a middle school, school-wide, grade 6, 7, and 8. And, since the pandemic, these students have had it really difficult from being online and being back in the classroom to being back online to being back in the classroom. So they haven't really had structure in terms of, just being in the classroom and just regularly interacting with other students. So it's really taken a toll on their own mental health and, how they deal with their day-to-day life.
Now, is this something that educators and teachers are prepared to deal with in the school system? What advice or strategies are you offering the young people that are in the schools?
Well, prior to the pandemic, we had Big Brother, Big Sister, we had Girl Talk, Boy Talk, we had these groups that these kids were able to utilize. And because of the pandemic and because, these kids are not allowed to interact with other students, you have to stay in your own bubble, it's really impacted them in terms of their own mental health and how they live. So for what the groups that we have now, I would say that we still do have, for me, I work in student services. So my portion online is still student services in terms of still supporting these kids, in terms of getting their work done, just having a conversation, checking in with them. Because sometimes there's some students that I do come across that keep things in. They don't let you know what's going on. So sometimes it's very hard to build that connection with students being online. But yes, we support services, like I said.
My name is Jabez Napoleon Ogboli, and I'm running for the position of the Public Relations Officer in the Nigerian Canadian Association, Greater Toronto Area. I'm using this opportunity to solicit for your support and your vote. As the Public Relations Officer in NCA GTA, I'll be able to work with all media outlets so that our voices and issues affecting the Nigerian community can be discussed. I will work with every community, every language, every race, every religion to unite us and make sure we have access to accurate information. I will reach out to all associations and community leaders within the Nigerian community and outside to ensure that in Canada we have a united voice and representation in municipal government, in provincial government, and of course the federal government. With your vote, together we can make NCA GTA an organization that when you think of Canada, you think of NCA GTA. My name is Jabez Napoleon Ogboli, and I'm running for the position of the Public Relations Officer in the Nigerian Canadian Association, Greater Toronto Area. I'm using this opportunity to solicit for your support and your vote. As the Public Relations Officer in NCA GTA, I'll be able to work with all media outlets so that our voices and issues affecting the Nigerian community can be discussed. I will work with every community, every language, every race, every religion to unite us and make sure we have access to accurate information. I will reach out to all associations and community.
Good evening and welcome to the Smart Investing Show with Alton Brooks on the GBKM Network. Tonight we're talking about the role of government in assisting businesses in this crisis. We've got MP Sahota joining us tonight, so let's go.
Hi, Alton. It's a pleasure to be on.
Hello and good evening, and thank you for joining us. As mentioned, tonight we've got Minister of Parliament from Brampton North, Ruby Sahota, joining us this evening. Welcome, MP Sahota. How are you tonight?
I'm very well, Alton. Thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure to be on your show.
It is my absolute pleasure to have you as well, and glad to know that you and your family are well.
Yes, we are. We're doing well. I hope you and your family are too, and all of your viewers. I wish you all very much good health and a lot of safety during this time. But I'm 100%, realize that so many people, especially in our communities, in my area of Brampton that I serve, have been impacted by COVID-19 and have had a really hard time. And the data definitely shows that, most of the people that have become infected by COVID-19, especially have had serious illnesses and have been hospitalized, look like me or you. And so it has had a disproportionate...
This is not your regular show. It is an interactive section powered by the masses.
You go to Nigeria, you wake up, you go come. I just said now, I don't go to Nigeria.
Where we discuss issues that cut across politics, security, health, current affairs, governance, and so much more. Slices of humor to keep you entertained and thrilled. We are the GPKM Street Talk Team.
communities.
Definitely, for sure. So let's talk about tonight's role of government. The impact of the current economic environment has been really tough on a lot of small business mostly, but also the bigger companies are feeling it too. Tell us about the role of government, specifically your government that you are helping to govern with, in this crisis, and how you are helping to govern this type of scenario.
Yeah, sure. First of all, I'd like to make clear that I am a federal Liberal member of Parliament, yes. And there has been many sharing of responsibilities throughout this pandemic. We've been working very hard to try to work with all of the different levels of government, whether it be, I'm an Ontario MP as well, like my riding is within Ontario. So whether it's with the Doug Ford PC Conservative Ontario government, or whether it is with our municipal government here in the city of Brampton and even the region of Peel. Right. We've been working hard together, but federally, we, at the very onset of this pandemic, took a real lead in trying to set a tone as to what governments should be doing in this pandemic. And when you saw early last March, when the decision was made that we would have Parliament shut down temporarily for a little while, and things kind of come to a halt, travel shut down, our borders restricted, things that really, even in our wildest dreams, we didn't really, think that things would get to a point where we would see the United States and Canada's largest border that two nations share ever shut down. We've almost never had that ever happen. And so those decisions that were even being guided for us through health professionals, those were being made from a lens that things like that were not possible to do. But quickly we had to figure out and navigate what needed to be done. And I have to say, as a government, as a caucus, those were very long days, long nights where we were on the phones with each other, having meetings after meeting. Caucus was consulted more than I think I've ever seen caucus consulted in my experience as a member of parliament, which was great because we were able to intercept all the calls we were getting from people in our ridings. And there was a real panic as to what that means. What does the shutdown mean? Now, obviously, we're a lot more used to that language, what it means for us, how businesses could cope. But at that time, everyone was extremely panicked and worried. And I know I stayed up at night thinking any decision we make could be the demise of a lot of my businesses in my area, or we would be risking, killing off so many people, in our areas as well. So those decisions are hard to make, but we quickly had to step up and say, CERB was the number one thing, right? Right away, we needed to make sure that individuals got money into their accounts as fast as possible with the least criteria possible, because we didn't want to make this hard for Canadians. So that was the very first thing.
Now, you mentioned having to work with all the different levels of government, provincial, municipal, etc. How hard was that during the entire process of trying to merge these three entities to actually work cohesively? Tell us about the challenge there.
Yeah, there were different visions on a lot of different programs, right? That's why you saw that the commercial rent assistance program, a lot of changes happened as a result of feedback from people, but also, trying to work with the different levels and trying to figure out a program that works for different provinces for their people. So there was a lot of negotiation happening, probably more so than we're used to doing over different programs like this. But I think early on you saw that really, we just took the lead. We did CERB, then we did CEBA, the loans that were rolled out for small businesses. And then we tried to figure out a way to work with the provinces, rent assistance, but we did wage assistance as well, wage subsidies for companies. And that all happened earlier on last summer. But I think after that, what you saw is then some of the provinces also trying to figure out whether they can provide assistance in their own way to their people. So I'm glad some provinces more than others were able to help assist, but we really took on the heavy burden. I do have to say that, the stats, the numbers do show that out of every $10 spent on this pandemic, whether it has been for healthcare, vaccine procurement, or for the business and individuals, $8 out of every 10 spent was spent by the federal government. So we didn't really hold back. We made sure that money flowed. If there were programs that the province was in charge of, we made sure that through the Safe Restart Agreement, we sent that money to the province so that they could have the vaccine rollouts, have the staff that they need to do all of that, be able to, like we're seeing now, have temporary hospitals and all of that stuff, the syringes, everything that goes into it, making sure the schools could restart safely. Schools are 100% provincial jurisdiction, but funding to make sure that schools had the extra money that they need was funneled down from the federal government. For the first time ever, the federal government does not fund schools, but we funded to the province so that they could deliver that money to the schools. So you saw unusual things happen. You would never see that happen in non-pandemic times. So a lot of the decisions that were made not really wanting to say, bicker that much and say, well, this is your responsibility. No, this is your responsibility. Our head was really focused on how do we roll things out and worry about that later, but make sure people are safe.
So you talk about reinvesting and the opportunities now to move forward after we've moved past some of the worst part of this COVID-19 pandemic. Tell us about where you see some new opportunities now going forward. And even when it comes to just government itself and improvements there, where you see opportunities to improve as a government as well. So tell us about the business side, the opportunities, and possibly as well just for governments to do better too.
Yeah, the business side and the social side. I think we've seen a lot, a lot of things come out of this pandemic, systems that were, flawed to begin with, that we need to improve on so that we have better systems in place if this was to happen again. So, I mean, better long-term care, that's a huge, discovery that we made. Of course, those complaints did go to the province, and we're hearing through the reports that are coming out that a lot of things went unfixed and unheard for a long time. So for the first time ever, once again, there have been calls on the federal government to implement a national strategy to put funding towards that. $3 billion is being put towards that in this budget, and in the fall economic statement, there was another $1 billion there as well to make sure that we have standardized care across the country. So we're definitely seeing, areas that need fixing and improving. National childcare is another area where, of course, there would be a great creation of jobs if we move towards a system that is more like Quebec's across the country. And we're looking to do that by 2026, have $10 a day childcare across this country. But in the meantime, by next year, we want to bring the cost down by 50%. This will help get women back into the workforce, help parents really essentially not have to make that difficult choice about having good care for their children or keeping the job that they love. So we want to make sure. We did see stats and data from the Quebec system that showed that women were actually, there was a less of a percentage in the workforce in Quebec as compared to the national average. But once they moved toward an affordable option, they saw quickly that statistic increased to be above the national average. And they also saw a higher birth rate and many good outcomes from that. So I think that's important to get back our workforce first and foremost so that we can see a growth in jobs. And then, of course, tech is a big area. We saw that we relied on tech so heavily. Those are areas we're looking to invest in and help incentivize companies by our good tax incentives that are being rolled out in this budget, as well as even the last budget we presented 2 years ago, to make sure that those companies want to invest and grow in Canada. And biomanufacturing. Manufacturing, I think, will be a big area for us. We lost our biomanufacturing so many years ago. So a lot of investments have been made in this area. And in the days to come, you're going to hear some more big announcements in this area. So we did hear a big announcement in Toronto about a new manufacturing facility being invested in. $25.1 million was invested into precision nano systems and a whole bunch of different areas. I mean, I could go through a list of different investments that were done just recently. Novavax is another one, Medicago, and so many manufacturing companies that are springing up across the nation.
Now, as you talk about manufacturing, and the economy involves that, distribution, goods and services. It also involves consumer spending. And right now, with the price of housing being, as some would say, sky high, that is taking up a lot of the spending of consumers. So are you worried that the spending may taper off because so much of your income has to go towards housing right now?
Well, yes, individual income is definitely going towards housing, but we have been seeing that the market is hot still for housing. This is, good for some, but still very worrisome, I think, as a whole for us, because we want to make sure that life is affordable for people and worrisome for government too. So you did see in this budget that there are some measures that have been put forward, such as the tax that will be placed on foreign speculation, foreign investors with vacant properties. You're also seeing the first-time home buyers investment. There was an announcement last week on that. That is going to be increased in the metropolitan areas of Vancouver and Toronto, where we saw that when we first rolled out that program, there was a lot of people that said, they couldn't still find a home for the value of about
and it probably
500.
is the case still because of the 30% increase since the start of the year. Those numbers may need to be
That's true.
reevaluated again.
That's true, but we have recently just changed the numbers as of last week.
Okay.
So you can purchase a house up to 700. I believe it's 722,000 now. In the Vancouver and Toronto area. It used to be just around the 500,000. And I know a lot of people in Brampton were saying there's not a lot of places that you can buy in this
That's
area,
right.
not a lot of homes for that price. So we have increased that, and we've also increased the amount you can earn. It was just up to 120 to be eligible thousand, but now it's up to 150,000. So we do want to provide that assistance when it comes to housing. But there's other measures we're taking as well, right? Along with the affordable childcare, we're also upped the federal minimum wage. We are still trying to make sure that families where the costs are highest, they're going to see an increase in their Canada Child Benefit. They saw an increase last year, but they're going to see another additional increase on top of their regular payments. So they could be on average receiving $1,200 more per child that's under the age of 6. We're also going to increase OAS for seniors over 75 to make sure that people still have a little bit of that extra finances to be able to still get what they need. So I don't know, Alton, like time will tell. And I know people are talking about inflation and a lot of other worries that they do have. But we're also seeing as things are opening up in different areas, we're seeing it in the US, we're seeing it in some of our provinces, that a lot of the industries that people had this pent up demand for are seeing a little bit of a boost, actually. Travel, tourism, they may see big boosts after the pandemic is, or the restrictions are loosened and the pandemic is over. So I don't know. I think there is worry about that, but I think we do see some good signs and data we're seeing across the world that although some people may be more hesitant depending on how much of a hit they took during this pandemic. There are many others that are waiting and have the urge to spend. So let's see. But we're going to continue to invest and stimulate the economy. And, you know, in our budget, you've seen that we're investing over 4% of our GDP just to make sure we have the recovery that we need.
Okay, that is terrific. Now, we're going to continue digging deeper into the budget, and we're going to talk about how some of it affects the Black community specifically, and we'll do that as soon as we come back from these messages. So we've got MP Sahota with us this evening, and we'll be right back.
Health, current affairs, governance, and so much more. Slices of humor to keep you entertained and thrilled. We are the GBKM Street Talk Team.
GBKM TV, the station with a vision. GBKM TV, the station with a difference now. Slim Flex said so. Big up Ghana.
Hello and welcome back to the Smart Investing Show with Alton Brooks. We are here every Monday night from 9 to 9:30 p.m. on the GBKM network. Make sure to download our app on iOS or Android, GBKM on either platform. You can also reach us at www.gbkm.tv or .fm on the radio. This evening, we're talking about the role of government in times of crisis, and no bigger one than the one we're currently in and hoping to escape out of, COVID-19, and how that's affecting businesses. And we've got our wonderful MP from Brampton North with us this evening, Minister of Parliament, Ruby Sahota. Welcome, and thanks for joining us once again.
Alton, I just wanted to say your program is wonderful, and I've downloaded my app as well.
That is terrific.
encourage all your viewers to do the same, because nothing is easier than having, your favorite programming right
For
at
sure.
the-
And I'm glad I'm now into your likes and favorites and follows. So I certainly appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So we continue along the path of talking about the budget. The budget actually has a little bit of everything for pretty much everybody. And one of the things that I always look at is the impact on youth. So tell us about it, and specifically, in the Black community, the unemployment levels for youth is higher than the average.
Right.
Tell us what's in this budget for youth and how can they empower themselves with some of what's available in the opportunities in this budget.
Absolutely. First and foremost, I do want to say to all your viewers that there's a lot of information that comes out in a budget, and it can be very overwhelming. And a budget is a high-level document that basically guides the government, sets the tone and the stage as to what, amounts of funding are going to go into different areas, how they get rolled out, what those programs look like, what the criteria is. All gets really established later after the announcement in the budget is made, right? So I do want to encourage all of your viewers to know who their provincial members of parliament are, who their federal members of parliament are, and reach out to them for some assistance and guidance. If you do hear about something and you're really interested in figuring out when when the application will be open to apply, when the deadlines are, all of that information can be provided by your member of parliament. So reach out, go to Google, you can basically search Find My MP, and you just have to put your postal code in. And once you do that, you know who your area member of parliament is, and I'm sure they'd be more than happy to assist you with more information as they receive it. So some of the funding streams that have been announced in this budget, there was $200 million to establish a Black-led philanthropic endowment fund. This is really focused around Black youth and social purpose organizations to help combat anti-Black racism and improve social and economic outcomes for Black communities. There's also going to be another fund, $100 million to support Black Canadian Communities Initiative. And this is run by Employment and Social Development Canada. So this is really, we've been hearing from a lot of organizations since I have been an MP that oftentimes what organizations in my area that have been led by Black organizations have said is that sometimes the same organizations keep getting the funding that they've always been getting. And a lot of good up and coming new groups are not getting the funding, but yet they're doing more grassroots work. And some maybe older organizations are outdated, maybe don't have the same motivation to come up with inspiring, innovative ideas. And so this funding is really in order to help support capacity building for those organizations. When you have smaller organizations, they were saying, we don't have the capacity to even apply or to organize ourselves properly. And we don't need money just for the project itself, but we need money to hire on staff to do a lot of that other stuff that smaller organizations need so that we can get to that point one day. So this is to help develop those organizations.
Now, would there be any easy way to help figure out who some of those organizations are, or do you already have some idea of that so that the correct people can get the funding to do the work?
Yeah, no, we don't know that at this point. That is going to be a part of, setting the criteria and rolling these programs out. Sometimes we have had assistance in different areas by larger organizations to help recognize what the smaller organizations are. Like earlier in the pandemic, we had the Red Cross roll out money to a lot of the smaller groups on the ground. And I know that one was a successful one because I know a lot of, just this morning, I was talking to a Kenyan association that said, that was one of the rare grants that they got, but yet they do have challenges when they apply to some of these grants. So I won't sugarcoat it and say, the grant application process is an easy one necessarily, but we're trying to change that. We have heard those criticisms, and we've been consulting with Black-led organizations to figure out how we can fix that so that new organizations can benefit. So we'll work with organizations to try to figure out the best approach. And like I said, you can reach out to your members of parliament to help assist you through the process.
Sure.
There is another program as well, the $300 million to boost Black entrepreneurship and women entrepreneurship. It's a new strategy that is being put together. So this one, I think, received probably more attention in the budget than the others. Hopefully, this is a existing program that is being expanded. And then there's stuff for the youth at large. Like in general, there's a lot of other stuff in this budget for the youth. If you have those student loans, and we heard from a lot of youth throughout this pandemic that they needed assistance as well. We had the student support benefit through the pandemic last summer. And we did, double the amount of Canada Summer Jobs. That's something we have done again this year. And there's also training and apprenticeship programs that are being allotted, especially for youth. About 85,000 work integrated learning programs for youth. And then student work placements, about 50,000 more of that. So there has been a focus on youth here. And I forgot to mention about the loans where we are extending that the interest-free forgiveness on loans, which we had throughout last year. That'll be extended until 2023, interest-free. And a reminder as well, I know that sometimes it's hard to tell because there's a provincial portion of your loans and there's a federal portion of your loans. So the provincial portion has different rules that apply according to the provincial government, but the federal portion, we had previously announced as well that you don't have to start making any payments on your federal student loans until you make at least $40,000 a year. So we're trying to make sure that, once again, like you said, as the costs have gone up on things, that we're making sure that these thresholds are being moved up and changed, because if a student isn't making at least that, it's very hard for them to start repaying their loans.
And one good thing I've heard from young people and students when it comes to the student loan aspect is that pushing it out further in order to repay that has actually allowed them to pay off other high interest loans like credit cards, etc. So it's actually having a dual effect by having them get better credit, paying off their other balances that are due now, and allowing them to have more opportunities to pay it off in the future. So that's very good.
That's a good point, Alton, and we all know that there's a tendency for students, because there's all those credit card companies, and it's enticing to pick up some steep credit card loans during those years. So the best financial advice is to pay off your highest interest debt first. And I'm glad
a lot of them have had actually to do that because jobs were somewhat scarce last year because of the pandemic, not being able to go to do face-to-face interviews. And unless you're having a job that you can do online, it's pretty tough. So some of them were forced to actually use credit cards to kind of get them through. But the leniency on the student debt has definitely helped them out. So kudos for that. And great to hear it's going into 2023 to allow them more time to get that together.
Yeah, and another thing that we all often heard is that, even if you don't have to make payments, a lot of students could defer their payments, but that interest accruing was a killer. And sometimes you don't, you kind of don't pay attention to that when you're young until you get older. And I firsthand know what that feels like as a student who went through undergrad all on loans, who went to law school all on loans.
Right.
It took me a very long time, and I just recently finished paying off those loans. So I know how that interest can accrue.
For sure. Let's just switch topics more to your local area of Brampton. And, we heard some university is going up in there, hopefully to be built soon. But tell us about the transit side. Light rail is going into a few different cities. Is that planned for Brampton? And tell us about any transportation plans for a growing city, one that's adding a lot of residents on a yearly basis.
Yeah, we just had a transit announcement today, albeit it wasn't an LRT. I wish it was, but it's digitizing the functions of the buses. We did have another one a couple of weeks before that on electric buses, and we're seeing the first electric buses on the road for the last couple of weeks now in Brampton. We're a pilot city, first of its kind in our country, and perhaps might end up being a leader in the world. So we're really envisioning a city with, mostly just electric transportation into the future. A third new transit facility was announced here in Brampton, creating over 1,000 jobs.
Oh, wow.
And construction will start on that quite soon. That's going to be in Brampton East. This helps us expand our fleet in Brampton, and that is very important as we are increasing our ridership at a rate of almost 18%, which is almost unheard of across this country. So where our ridership is growing here faster than in most areas, our population, and I guess our immigrant population, is also large here. And so therefore those things do have a correlation. In terms of the LRT, I know there was a very big, largest infrastructure transit announcement the federal government has ever made into an LRT or subway extensions in the Toronto area, not an LRT there, but subway extensions mainly for different projects. Those are great for our city as well. A lot of Bramptonians do travel out to Toronto to work.
For sure.
And there are good requirements, criteria that have been built into the conditions on that funding. So some of the conditions are affordable housing being set up around those routes, making sure that there's a percentage of hiring that is done out of the local communities. There's an environmental assessment that needs to be done, and through more electrification, more subway type transit, we do reduce emissions as well. So our government's priority really is, and will continue to be, that every investment we make, we want to see it fulfill our priorities of having a cleaner environment at the same time and creating jobs. So there is a proposal eventually, I think, that will land on our table from Brampton. We don't really have it yet because they are still finalizing the EAs on other routes that they're looking at. I think many of us from this area know that years ago, around 2015, when I was first elected as a federal member of parliament, there was a lot of buzz about funding that was coming from the provincial government, a fully funded LRT that was going through the Hurontario line all the way into our GO station in downtown Brampton. But the city at that time refused that funding because they were not, they did not approve of the route. They didn't want it to go directly through Hurontario Main Street. And so that debate is still, in some ways, still happening at the city level.
Right.
So the way, Alton, these proposals work is local governments are supposed to decide what's best for their people and their city. And they are supposed to vote on certain projects. And then and especially for infrastructure projects, they have almost basically a one-third type share with the province. So they submit that proposal to the province. Once the province prioritizes what they want to see happen, then the federal government signs off with their portion of what needs to be invested. And so that is where the problem still lies with that. I don't think they've finalized what they're going with here, but hopefully they do, because I'm eager to make another announcement.
It's a work in process, but you mentioned getting into politics in 2015. Tell us what drove you to want to get into politics, and what do you enjoy most about being a member of parliament?
I enjoy meeting new people. Even as a lawyer, I definitely had exposure to people. I am a people person by nature. I always have been, and I think that really drove me to into law, because I wanted to advocate and represent people. But this is advocating for people in a different way in politics, and I think there was a part of me that didn't feel completely fulfilled, and so I wanted to to take this journey to see what what would become of it. But I think my favorite part has been that compared to any other type of career or job, you get exposed to so much more in politics than you could ever imagine. In any other job, you start specializing and focusing and narrowing in on the issues you deal with. Whereas in media as well, and in politics, you're exposed to so many views, so many opinions, companies, people that have whole different perspectives on every issue. And so I think it's been an eye-opening experience, and that's what I love about it the most, the engagement part.
That is terrific. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. That is our time tonight. We have Ruby Sahota tonight, MP for Brampton North, Federal Minister. Thank you so much. Again, we've had the pleasure of having the Minister join us. She's provided a lot of information to us, so please go back and press the replay if you wish to hear some of that information.
This is not.
And stressed that you should check in with your Minister of Parliament in your local area for additional support as well. Thank you again for watching us tonight. We shall be back next Monday night, so have a great week. Take care.
This is not your regular show. It is an interactive section powered by the masses.
You go to Nigeria, you wake up, you go come. I just said now, I don't go to Nigeria.
Where we discuss issues that cut across politics, security, health, current affairs, governance, and so much more. Slices of humor to keep you entertained and thrilled. We are the GBKM Street Talk Team.
Good evening and welcome to the Smart Investing Show with Alton Brooks on the GBKM Network. Tonight we're talking about the role of government in assisting businesses in this crisis. We've got MP Sahota joining us tonight, so let's go.
Hi, Alton. It's a pleasure to be on.
Hello and good evening, and thank you for joining us. As mentioned, tonight we've got Minister of Parliament from Brampton North, Ruby Sahota, joining us this evening. Welcome, MP Sahota. How are you tonight?
I'm very well, Alton. Thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure to be on your show.
It is my absolute pleasure to have you as well, and glad to know that you and your family are well.
Yes, we are. We're doing well. I hope you and your family are too, and all of your viewers. I wish you all very much good health and a lot of safety during this time. But I'm 100%, realize that so many people, especially in our communities, in my area of Brampton that I serve, have been impacted by COVID-19 and have had a really hard time. And the data definitely shows that, most of the people that have become infected by COVID-19, especially have had serious illnesses and have been hospitalized, look like me or you. And so it has had a disproportionate impact on minority communities.
Definitely, for sure. So let's talk about tonight's role of government. The impact of the current economic environment has been really tough on a lot of small business mostly, but also the bigger companies are feeling it too. Tell us about the role of government, specifically your government that you are helping to govern with, in this crisis and how...
It's not your regular show. It is an interactive section powered by the masses.
You go to Nigeria, you wake up, you go come. I just said now, I don't go to Nigeria.
Where we discuss issues that cut across politics, security, health, current affairs,